Happy holidays from the Not Done podcast. When Pam and I sought out to start this just three and a half months ago, I could have never imagined the traction and short-term success we would have. We are the fastest growing podcast in hospitality, and that's because of each and every one of you. Thank you to our listeners for tuning in every week. And whether you're an old peep from Remington days or a new friend made through the podcast like Carrie and his wife, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We've had a lot of fun this fall and early winter producing great shows for you, and we're not going to stop. But if I could ask two things of you: one, if you've not signed up, sign up at our newsletter at sloandean.com or engage with us on LinkedIn. And then two, if you know of anyone that you think would benefit from this podcast, please do share. Now, with that, this week's show, I'm very excited to sit down with Chris Silcock, president of Hilton globally and a long-term friend. Chris and I talk about everything from career path to state of the hotel industry, brand strategy, what does loyalty look like in the world of AI, Hilton's partnership strategy, and of course, conversations around leadership. With that, on with the show. Well, welcome to Not Done Podcast. I'm Sloan Dean, and today I'm excited to have on Chris Silcock, President of Global Brands and Commercial Services at Hilton. And Chris represents really a remarkable hospitality success story, starting from a banquet waiter to becoming president and overseeing 25 world-class brands. And his nearly 30-year journey, he, like myself, was a revenue management expert and then rose to the level of president. So, Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Great to be here. Thanks for the invite. Congrats on the podcast.
Hey, thank you. Well, it's been a pleasure to know you over the years. I used to sit on your Hilton Distribution Advisory Committee that you lead and kind of witness your talent, your leadership firsthand. So I'm excited to have you on. I guess to kick us off today, maybe share a bit about your career path, your journey for the listeners that maybe aren't familiar with you.
I'm an accidental hospitality employee. I studied computer science as my undergraduate degree and then went on to study music. I was, believe it or not, destined to be a household name in the music business. However, while I was studying, I took a part-time job to earn some money at the local Hilton hotel in Watford as a banquet waiter and really got hooked kind of immediately on a few things. First, or those who've worked in hotels know that, it's a team sport, right? You're 24/7, you've got an amount of stuff to get done and you all have to just pitch in. So I found that really energizing. Then second, I had some experiences there since it was in my local town of, working at weddings or hosting weddings for people I knew. And so you got to experience the other side in a personal way of how what we did in the hotel really makes a difference. We did a great job, did a great wedding. It was the most important day in people's lives, and we had the power to make that fantastic. So I realized that whilst this was a part-time job to earn some cash, what we did mattered. And then with Hilton, they just offered me opportunities that I felt completely inadequately qualified for. The first one was, I was a banquet waiter, and then the general manager kind of said, how would you like to be night manager? And I was like, at that age, love to be a manager. I know nothing. I'd never been behind a front desk. I started the following day. I was in the hotel on my own overnight, had to work it out. And I just found that incredible that people spot something in you, put trust in you, give you responsibility for a hotel. And that just continued through my career and kept me really engaged up until this point.
Love that. So the music background, do you think the creative background helped influence how you think about the business, having that part of the brain activated? And I think it's pretty common to have a leader who is, analytical or business oriented, but that creativity, I would say, is sometimes not as common.
Listen, I would love to claim to be a highly creative individual, but I just can't. Music, in some regard, is very linked to maths and numbers and analytical. It's all relationships between notes and understanding which ones go together and don't and how that sounds. And so that was my kind of key link with music. I said I was destined to be a household name. I probably wasn't, because creativity, as we'll understand when we talk about brands and other things, is not my strongest point. But analytics is, and it's a comfort zone for me, being a pretty heavy introvert. Numbers are easier to deal with.
Yeah, now you've been credited with kind of transforming revenue management at Hilton to a very data-driven science. Did you have any aha moments on your path of revenue management as you grew up in the business?
Yeah, no, I did. In that first hotel, I ended up, leading what was reservations department at the time, who did what was the kind of early signs of revenue management. It was always, in my view, as individuals with poor data, we were trying to do what we can do now much better. We were trying to use that data to understand what's going on and make pricing and inventory decisions. So it was all as a data-driven science, it's just there wasn't much data to drive it. As data got better, it became much harder for any individual to consume that data in order to make effective decisions. So we had to embrace technology to help us in that way. I think one of the biggest learnings along the journey was I would look at the data and I'd be able to convince a hotel or a general manager why they should do something because the results will be better. And in my mind, that should be an easy discussion, right? That should be a no-brainer. But I really learned data is my preference. You've got to win the hearts and minds of general managers and directors of sales and regional general managers. And so, that was the aha. I can't just show them it will make them more money, although that's highly important. And some hotels and investors will react to that. You've got to convince them in other ways, get their heart and mind on your side, that you understand their business and their objectives and how what you're going to do is going to help them achieve that. And that's been and continues to be one of the biggest challenges in moving to a really data-driven, AI-powered pricing and inventory construct is getting all the people bought into, even if they don't understand the mechanics.
If I reflect back, so 20 years ago, I was a regional revenue manager at IHG. I, too, accidentally fell into the business. I have an industrial engineering degree from Georgia Tech. And I remember 20 years ago having a conversation with a couple of revenue managers about how we wanted to not report into sales. Remember what, and could we have an equal footing with sales and operation? You fast forward and I look at someone like you, you're an amazing example for aspiring folks of like what you can achieve. Because I think I was having this conversation with Scott Roby, who's now president of Pacifica. He was a revenue manager. Chad Finch, who is an old friend of mine, he was a revenue manager and is now president of Buffalo Lodging. You're now president of Hilton. I was CEO of a large company. So it's nice to look around and see these folks that grew up in the late 90s, mid 2000s in revenue management and are now in C-suite positions. And I think you're an outstanding example of that.
And that was an interesting time when that kind of, not fight, but that tension, between sales and revenue management and who should lead and make decisions. And ultimately, the answer for me was what you need in a commercial leader is clear, right? Somebody who can arm your demand generation capabilities with the right information to go and get the right demand, and somebody who can lead your demand optimization team to make the very most out of that demand in order to maximize performance. So whoever that was, that could have been, and it has been often a sales leader who was most appropriate and skilled to do that role, and it has often been a revenue leader. And so it wasn't about sales or revenue, it was about the role we need to fill. Whichever person is most qualified should fill it.
That's well said. Very well said. You guys just reported Q3 and you beat earnings estimates. So congratulations on a solid EBITDA for Q3. Estimates were around $2, and you guys came in at I think $2.11. Now, your NUG growth continues to be off the charts. I think you guys in Marriott are light years ahead of everyone else, at least in the U.S. market. I think your NUG growth is 6.5%. And despite that amazing earnings, though, your RevPAR was slightly negative. How are you seeing the U.S. hotel industry right now, and then how you're seeing the world?
We're definitely seeing, this phenomena which has been much discussed of the K economy, right, where luxury is the upper stroke of the K and is strong and growing.
Right. And those people don't feel inflation as much, right? Inflation probably benefits them.
Exactly. That's right. And then, the bottom of the K is the broader market where, understandably, people are cautious because of uncertainty, broader economic and political issues and tariffs have caused that uncertainty. And so we're seeing a bit of pullback across those segments of business. The government side of the business has been an influence. Obviously, it's been negative year on year throughout the year. In the last month or so, that's obviously been even more extreme. We continue to see steady but really strong leisure demand when you look back to pre-COVID. So it's still in good shape. It's just kind of flatlined out a little bit. Business has been sluggish, not down significantly, but just not growing. And in that segment, we have pivoted our attention meaningfully towards small, medium businesses who we've learned over time are more resilient because they have to travel, they have to do business. It's how they make their income. And so we're seeing good success in pivoting into that. And then group continues, a slower recovery from COVID, but hopeful. When you look at 26, when you look at 27, positions are strong and people continue to commit. When you stand back from it all, we are optimistic. Certainly in the US, there's a lot of investment to be unlocked, which generally supports our industry. Resilience of leisure, when people are feeling more confident, we know they continue to prioritize leisure experiences over things, and we think that will continue. We think, with the low supply growth, again, that should be another tailwind for the industry over the next few years. So a little bumpy at the moment, but optimistic, not sure when, but optimistic there are brighter days to come.
Maybe if I go to the world, it seems like China is seeing a bit of a slowdown. Do you think it's a structural shift in China, or do you think it's more temporary?
Yeah, no, we think it's temporary. And quite frankly, in general, domestic travel within China remains robust. We benefit now that we have representation across chain scales. Hampton is growing massively in China. We have Home2 growing massively, Garden Inn, and hotels where we've been there for a long time, full service and luxury. Optimism in China is with still much lower inbound travel. The business continues to perform and grow, and there's still a lot of room for incremental penetration as the Chinese population travels more. And then at some point, you've got to imagine inbound will open up and improve, which will add even more fuel to the fire. So as you know, in China, as the government makes certain moves, it can have short-term impacts, but in general we feel really good about performance outlook for existing hotels and continued growth of our estate in China, and quite frankly across Asia. Japan has been strong in growth and performance, really strong. Korea, Southeast Asia, the middle class phenomenon is fueling growth across all those markets.
I mean, your NUG growth and your pipeline speak for itself. Over 500,000 rooms, so very, very impressive. Let's maybe talk about brand strategy. You guys announced in October Outset. I think it's your 25th brand. And then last year you had acquired Graduate, Nomad. Maybe give a little bit of a understanding of Outset and what that collection brand represents, and then how you as the leader of the brands are thinking about your brand identities now that you have 25-ish brands, and I'm sure maybe some more to come.
Yeah, and it sounds like a lot, recognize that, but we have always and continue to try and remain really disciplined in this respect, in that there are really two things that drive us to create brands. One is customers. So when there is a need for a price point or a product service experience that we're not meeting with the brands we have today. And the second is our owners, right? Our owners are closest to many of the markets. They know what's going on, and they often tell us, hey, there is a product we want to build or invest in that we know customers want, that you're not enabling us to partner with you on at this point. An Outset collection by Hilton was really born out of our experience with Tapestry and Curio. So Curio, our upper upscale collection, each of these three brands enable more independently minded owners with a more independent experience that they've created to join Hilton, benefit from the commercial engine, and benefit from the kind of stamp of assurity with customers, the trust they have in friendly and reliable service if they know Hilton is standing behind it. There are a number of hotels which were great hotels, like small independent hotels, but they didn't necessarily have the food and beverage facilities or services available, and yet our customers want to stay and have access to them, and their owners want to be part of Hilton. So hence Outset was born. In many cases similar product quality to Tapestry, but just will not always have the gym or the food and beverage capabilities that a Tapestry assures customers they will always have. That's Outset. We've got 2 hotels open and selling already, another 60 or so in discussions.
By the way, I wasn't asked to say this, but I made this comment in a prior conversation that, I think sometimes people will say, well, okay, Marriott or Hilton or Hyatt have too many brands.
Yeah.
And my argument is, well, if their NUG growth is so significant, there are owners signing up with them because they're delivering so much value.
In some respects, it's a self-regulating system, right?
That's
if
right.
we create brands that don't resonate with customers, they won't perform, and then
Right.
owners will not sign them up. In the industry, we look at the 25 brands or some with 40 or 50 brands and go, how is a customer meant to understand that? Well, the answer is they're not. Right? Any one customer may use 5 or 7 of our brands, depending on trip occasion. They want to understand Waldorf and Hilton and Doubletree and maybe Spark or Hampton, because that's the brands that are relevant to them. We've got to make sure those products and experience are very tight and deliver a good quality experience for that stay occasion. But there's no customer going, right, which of the 25 brands do I want to stay in tonight? Right? It's not how they operate.
If we pivot, you guys just announced, I think, well, I don't know if you announced, maybe it was a leak, the Diamond Reserve. So I've been a Diamond for years, to the extent that you can talk about it, because I don't know if you've done a formal press release, but my understanding, I read online, it's 80 room nights plus 18,000 annual spend.
Yes, I tell you where you're right. You're right in that I can't talk about it.
Okay.
But, we are always, and if you look back over time, we have introduced things, along the way by understanding our customers, and therefore we evolve the program. A big one there was milestone bonuses, for example, which is we observed and heard from Diamond members that when they requalify, that in some cases there's no incremental reward, so they may switch to another program to earn status. And so we introduced milestone bonus. So you continue to get bonuses if you continue to consolidate your stay with us. We have something exciting in the works. You've alluded to some of it, but more to come soon.
Okay. Well, we'll keep our eyes out on for the press release. Sticking with kind of loyalty, I think every loyalty program faces the point devalue criticism. I'm a concierge key with American, which, American in the last 2 years, I think devalued their currency pretty substantially. And I'm using it as an example. But how do you balance that with member value versus economic reality?
The thing we protect most is what customers tell us they value most, which I think we're the only hotel program that offers no blackout dates on standard room inventory. And ultimately, if you've gone to go and use points somewhere, the most frustrating thing is when you've been loyal to somebody, you go to use your points for what you want and is important to you, and you have no access to inventory, whether that be flights or hotels. So protecting that is the most important thing. Beyond that, we have, that K economy is a great example. We have luxury rates going up significantly. Therefore, the value equation for using your points at luxury gets significantly richer, because the market price for the hotel room is much more. For some of our other brands, rates are flat, and therefore the value equation is constant. And we have to adjust to that from time to time in order to ensure the program remains intact. And as you know, a really important part of the program is how we reward our hotels for looking after those loyal customers, and we've got to make sure that remains a positive experience for owners at the same time.
Now, if you think about the younger generation, millennials and Gen Z are aging into kind of primary buying category. They're kind of the core demographic now, call it early 20s to 44. They're also famously somewhat brand agnostic. How do you describe loyalty as we move forward? That I think for the older generations, this obviously is probably a gross generalization, but I think about my parents, they really cared about consistency. My kids care about cool, unique.
Yep.
How do you appeal to that younger customer where maybe loyalty is not their first thought?
When you think of the birth of Hampton and other brands, it was a pretty Wild West out there in the hotel market, very variable experiences. Hampton, as an example, brought a really reliable, high quality, friendly experience that you could guarantee you would get that wherever you go. That became a mega trend in those brands growing. When we say the younger traveller doesn't care about consistency, I think it's important to split that apart, right? They do care that it's clean and that you've got friendly service and it's of good quality. That's a barrier you have to get over.
That's a core tenet.
That's a core tenet. And that does not exist everywhere, as you know. On top of that, what they're looking for, as you say, is independent-minded hotels, more design-forward hotels that match current tastes. But if you were to deliver that and it was unclean and inconsistent and unfriendly, they would very quickly tell you that is important to them. And so the growth of our lifestyle and luxury brands, up to over 1,000 now, is catering for a younger audience with different taste. But importantly, it's design F&B forward experiences built on top of friendly, reliable, quality, clean basis. And I think that will remain important. And this was our introduction of Spark a year or two ago, now 200 hotels, another 200 in the pipeline. What we learned there is, whilst we say they're not brand loyal, many younger customers do aspire to stay in Hilton brands because they know and they've heard of and they understand and trust that it's going to be a good experience. But many of our brands are just out of their price point. And so Spark, we're getting a huge influx of younger travellers now at a lower price point, which is kind of demonstrating they do aspire to these brands. They do have some affinity to them, but they also expect us to deliver those lifestyle type experiences that they love.
I have to give it to you. You've been very, very smart as it relates to partnerships. You guys were pretty early and I think have a partnership with Lyft where there can be some cross-pollination. You did the auto camp deal with outdoor tourism, and now you've got small luxury hotels partnership. How do you think about partnerships going forward?
Two or three aspects to this. One is, who can we partner with that gives more value to our loyal customers? So that could be Lyft, enables them to earn and burn. Could be Amazon, enables them to use their points on Amazon. Could be other partnerships we'll do that just give more utility and more value for consolidating their stays with us. Secondly, with the mega trend move to experiences over things, partnerships that give our customers access to experiences that they couldn't otherwise get. Things like our partnership with the Grammys. We've been sponsors of McLaren for 20 years. Our honours customers get access to experiences they wouldn't otherwise get with McLaren. And so, we look for partnerships that deliver more value, but in an experiential way for our customers. And then third, SLH is a great example. Our luxury brands are strong and growing well, but the luxury segment is a slower moving segment for growth, right? Those hotels take a long time to finance, to build, and to get out there. And so SLH was really a strategic partnership that enabled us to bring 500 or so luxury hotels into the system almost overnight, that gave our loyal customers access to those products and experiences that otherwise they didn't have. And that's the same with AutoCamp. It's not something we're going to do. It's not our expertise, the outdoor kind of, but partnering somebody who's a specialist in that, again, giving our customers access to that and new ways to stay and new ways to use their points. So three different kind of ways we think about it.
Yeah, very smart as you build the ecosystem and look to drive value for customers. Not hotel related, but what is maybe a brand that you look at for inspiration outside of the hotel industry?
I love practical advantage from the brands I choose, and I'm going to be very dull and boring, I'm afraid. I love Apple products because they just work and they make you feel good like every day, right? Because you're using something where people have bothered to put the thought and the time and the effort to make things simple and intuitive. So I'm a great fan of Apple. I like to try and keep fit. I've got my Peloton bike, I've got my tread. I just love the experience on that product. It feels quality, the content is good, makes me feel like I'm trying to keep myself healthy. As we get to our age, and I say our age, I'm older than you, they tell us we've got to do more weights, not all
That's
cardio.
right.
I'm trying to listen.
Yeah, got to build that bone density.
Exactly.
I'd be remiss while I have you if we didn't talk about AI. Whether we're in a bubble or not, I'm not going to be the expert to debate that, but for sure, it's changing our lives. How do you think about AI? Very open-ended question, and how you think about that in evolving Hilton.
Yeah, and we're thinking about it really focused in three areas. There is clearly efficiency opportunity through AI.
Yep.
And within that, we think about two things. There's efficiency for hotels, for their operating budgets, and there's efficiency for the Hilton system that then enables us to give value back to hotels if we can do what we do in a more efficient way. So efficiency, number one. Secondly, huge opportunity to enhance the customer experience, on property experience, their interaction with us. And then thirdly, the way the dreaming, shopping, booking, marketing landscape is dramatically shifting. So we're looking at that. From a Hilton perspective, I feel really lucky because however technology evolves, how the impact AI has on it, we're still in the fulfillment business. We're still in the physical experience business, right? And AI will never replace aspects of our business, where there are many other businesses where AI could have a much more meaningful impact on the core of their business. So whilst AI will make the experience better, it will make it more efficient, it still needs to be surrounded with human-to-human service, people serving people, people in our hotels. And so it feels like a great opportunity for hospitality and for hotels, rather than the risk it may kind of be for some other industries.
I was talking to students at FIU a couple months back, and I almost said something synonymous with what you're talking about, that if you think about the future and you go out 10, 15 years, I'm thinking about this with my own sons, what do they want to do, and that some jobs may be fully automated or replaced. You know, is going to law school the best use in that LLMs are doing paralegal work as well as a paralegal, and will they eventually do the work of all junior attorneys? But you're right, the travel experience, it may evolve, but humans want to be hosted by humans.
I agree. And as you know, where we started, this industry is great for growing careers out of nothing, right?
That's
you
right.
do well, you focus on doing a great job, and opportunities, in my experience, and I've seen it with hundreds of others, opportunities come your way.
Look at you. I mean, you were
Both of us,
started
yeah.
banquets. Look at
Yeah.
Chris
Yeah.
Nacetta. That is core to the DNA of what makes this industry so great.
I don't know if you saw, but today we were announced to be the #1 workplace in the world.
Wow. Congratulations. That's awesome.
It's fantastic news, and it's
I
just
think
a
you have you
testament.
won that accommodation before, or you've
We-
often been in the top 10. Have you?
Yeah, so they do country by country, and we've won many best place to work, and we have won the best place in the world, I think a couple of years ago. Don't quote me on that, but just today, funnily enough, it was announced that
Congratulations.
No, we're really proud. It's just our belief in what you were saying, people serving people. If we treat our people right, they will treat our guests right. Our guests will preference our hotels. They'll make more money. Owners will build more hotels. It's, you know, as simple and as beautiful as that.
And I think the way you summed up AI is the right way, that it will bring efficiency to hotels, which frankly is needed.
Yes.
I think Expedia announced the deal with OpenAI. Most customers start with a Google search about the dreaming experience. Are customers now just going to go to the LLMs and say, give me this hotel? You know, how are you thinking about that customer inspiration?
A couple of things. One, if you have, even with Google, if you have tried to dream of travel, we, the industry, are really bad at it. Right, we are still oriented around location and dates. And you ever try and say, hey, I want to go somewhere in Europe, to the sea, I like tennis, maybe a bit of golf, good restaurants. It's like finding a needle in a haystack.
Yeah. It spits back whoever's spending the most on AdWords and
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah,
it's very little relevance to what you've said, and the LLMs are going to transform, and already are transforming that. 58% of consumers are using ChatGPT or AI tools like ChatGPT already for product and service recommendations. So huge change there. Second, I think this is a generational opportunity for our industry, for hotels, right? I don't know when it was, 25, 30 years ago, some people sitting in the seats we've sat in made some decisions about their relationships with OTAs. OTAs have delivered great value to hotels and to customers, but they grew exceptionally large, and billions of dollars of owner value have been extracted from the system.
That's right. Transferred.
That's right, through those relationships. And I think we're at a pivotal point where, you know, there's an ability to shift and change how that works in the future, supported by the fact that, unlike 20, 25 years ago, there are bigger brand companies like ourselves now. 1 in 2 conversions in the US this year is converting to a Hilton brand. 1 in 5 hotels, new hotels opening in the US, is a Hilton brand. So any platform needs Hilton, Marriott, Hyatt, ICE. They need those players as part of their platform. So not surprising that, you know, ChatGPT and others have started with a relationship with the people who have access to the most inventory and pricing. But I do think there's a recognition, while they may have the broadest set, they don't have the best data, right? They don't have loyalty rates, they don't have the best content and information on all those products, and ultimately these LLMs want to provide the very best experience, most personalized experience to their customers. Needless to say, we're in heavy engagement with all of them, working through how this plays out, but I'm really excited for the customer experience and for the opportunity for owners.
I had this debate with a friend of mine who's a Gen X, and they said, well, what happens if a hotel's all AI? Does it lose the human experience? And I said, we'll figure that out because the customer will decide. I use the example, I've used this a couple times, but Waymo. If you get into a Waymo and you've used Uber or Lyft, Uber and Lyft were 10 times a better experience than the cab. But you never realized how valuable it is to have. I took a Waymo in Santa Monica a couple months ago, and I had to have a very confidential business conversation. And I wouldn't have been able to take it if I was in an Uber or Lyft, but I could take it in a Waymo. Now, they were recording probably, but I'm not worried about them distributing something. You never realize until it's there how much of a better experience it was. My wife even said, for women's safety, for example, she never felt great taking an Uber or Lyft by herself late at night, and then she could take a Waymo and felt safer. So I think those similar, how they've even upended rideshare, that those better customer experiences will be coming. And frankly, maybe give us some pricing power, because I think most people think about only the efficiency part of AI. But I like that point, too, that you brought up. Who's to say that AI couldn't give us much more pricing power because it's a better experience?
Yeah, no, exactly. And with how we deploy it against personalization, our inventory, we are slowly going away from here's a standard room or a superior room and here's the price. I've got 10 criteria about my room: the location in the hotel, the features, the bath or the shower, and the desk or whatever. And as we get to learn that about people, we'll match them to the specific product and services that go around it that they want, and it will be individually priced for them, which I think is a huge opportunity. They get exactly what they want, and the owner and the hotel get paid appropriately.
Yeah. Last AI question, You brought up the efficiency. I made an analogy once that I feel like AI, maybe this is going to be almost the Ozempic for businesses, meaning that, leaning out things that we don't need. Automating accounting, automating night audit, reconciliation processes. How are you guys testing that at Hilton, or, using Marriott, for example, I think announced like an AI incubator. Yeah. How are you testing things around the efficiency component?
We have a number of tests and deployments, quite frankly, in place. From the very simplest, whilst it's not agentic or generative, we've had AI and machine learning in our revenue management algorithms for years. Last year, we deployed messaging across every hotel. So now customers can interact digitally if that's the way they choose to. Obviously, we've now applied agentic AI behind that. Between 30 and 40% of those conversations are dealt with quickly by AI trained on our data, freeing up our team members, to do higher value things. We're going to go into a test for labor management, right? How does AI predict shift needs, resource needs, spikes and otherwise, and the team member behaviors from a attendance perspective in order to drive, labor efficiencies, which, as you know, is a big cost driver. And so we have about 40 pilots in place. We are partnering with those that we see fit for purpose. We're obviously not building our own LLM, but we're using different LLMs trained on different sets of data to satisfy or support different parts of the business. Marketing is a great, we already use it for content generation to some respect, for writing room descriptions. We were able to demonstrate if you feed all the data about a hotel into a trained LLM, it will write you a more effective room description than a human. And it kind of makes sense. Like, we've got 9,000 hotels. We're asking one person in each of those hotels to write room descriptions. How are they going to be the very best in the world at writing room descriptions, right?
Yeah.
And then, soon to come, you can have an agent that understands our demand, booking data, position data, and so goes off and understands the needs of our hotels. You can have another agent that understands customer traffic, shopping, booking behavior. You can have another that understands, what's resonating creatively with customers based on their behaviors. And they swarm and debate, and they will come up with, hey, here is a campaign through these channels that you should deploy Here's how you optimize the spend across those channels to get the best out of it. And you just need to review and approve, and it gets deployed. That was a 3-5 week process at best. And now we will have a swarm of agents. You will still need creative, intelligent humans to monitor, make decisions in that process. But a lot of that work will be done by agentic AI in the very near future.
Yeah, I love that. Well, we've come to the part of the show, Chris, where we do what we call closing rapid fire.
Right.
No right or wrong answer. It's not a shooting range, so don't worry. No bullets coming your way. You've been at Hilton nearly 30 years. What makes you stay?
Yeah, I said it. We're the best places to work in the world, and I mean it. The culture is everything. The tone has been set by Niceta over the last 18 years or so that he's been here. So, why go anywhere else?
What's the best career advice you've ever gotten?
2 things. 1, focus on the game, not the scoreboard. So many people spend too much time worrying about the next job or the next opportunity. Just do a great job, and in my experience, good things come. Secondly, play the long game. It's not always going to go your way, and sometimes opportunities you think you maybe should have had don't come. But again, if you're doing a great job, I've learned several times that it works out for the best.
I love that. Being a CEO or a president, you got to know a little about a lot of things, not a lot about a little. And so much of people go really deep on one area, and then they get stuck.
No, and importantly, and this was a great lesson for me. When I first took over sales, I am the furthest thing from a salesperson you could ever meet, right? I'm an analytical introvert. And that was a real challenge because prior to that, I'd been leading revenue management. And that was, people who spoke my language. And so you got to learn how to lead and motivate the people you're talking to, understanding infinitely more about what they're doing than you're ever going to understand. How do you add value in that equation? That's what you've got to work out.
What is your favorite brand?
Well, I don't know. We're coming up to Christmas. I love shopping at Christmas, so I love the big department stores. I guess it's more of a Christmas thing than anything else.
Probably nostalgia from childhood, right?
Selfridges, I love. Always make a homage there at Christmas to buy all my presents. That's more of an experience.
What favorite book?
So I love, I'm going to get the name wrong, but from many years ago, Steve Jobs wrote a book. I think it was called Insanely Simple, which is a great book. And I think it's so true today. Like, we have so many complex issues. One of the things I love most is getting into a complex issue so much that when you come out the other end, you have complete clarity and simplicity. Right? And that's what we need to do for our customers. And it's hard to do. It's really hard to do. But when you achieve it, it feels good. And I love some of the business management. The Speed of Trust was one that had a big impact on me, helping you understand, the power of trusting relationships in the speed at which a business can operate. That I believe is critically important as a leader, because if you have a team around you that trust each other, there's 40% of, excuse my language, BS that goes away, and you just get productivity. So that would be another one.
Yeah, humans are always wanting to make sure they feel safe.
Exactly.
Even in the workplace. I'm currently reading Co-Intelligence that's about AI from a non-AI expert. It's written by Ethan Mollick. Ethan Mollick is a professor at Wharton, and it's really, really well done.
Yeah, no, that sounds interesting. I'll look it up.
Well, Chris, thank you for being on the show. Thank you for your leadership in the industry and everything that you continue to do. We wrap every show. I let the guests say, hey, what are you not done with? The branding on the podcast is pretty literal. I'm not that creative either. It's about what you're not done with. So, Chris Silcock, what are you not done with?
I'm not done with this industry. I mean, we have, as I said, I think we're a generational opportunity right now based on how technology is evolving and customers are evolving around experiences. So we're big and we're growing and we're being successful, but we're never happy enough, right? We've got so much more to do.
Well, thanks for being here.
Cheers. Great to speak to you.
Well, whether it's Chris at Hilton or Tony at Marriott, what stands out to me when talking to these pivotal hotel brand leaders is really 3 things. First, there is a focus on people above all else, and you can really sense that in the tone and the words that Chris was using today. Second, there's a maniacal focus on the customer, trying to anticipate where the customer is going, what their needs are. And third, a sense of humility that pulls through in kind of that daily, just get things done type of conversation. You can tell that Chris is never done learning. Next week, we have Ben Rafter, CEO of Hotel Equities. So until then, stay not done.